Hello, guys. Can we get back in and get started, please? Please, if I can ask some of the groups, because we already had the decision, so please move closer by here if it is possible. It's cooler here, believe me. Please, come on over. Come on over. And people in the back, if you like to join us here, will be great. Thank you, guys. You guys are, I can't believe you actually listened to me. It was good. Thank you. I wanted to thank the Plug and Play team. I don't know if Candice, Nick, Zarko, Alireza are around. I would love them to join me up here. Nick is downstairs. Okay, so you have to take all of the credit, Candice. No, but here is Nick, here is Candice. I wanted to kind of tell you, I helped to put on the first or the second expo, but really for this expo, I just showed up today. And it is really a lot of hard work choosing the companies, having the audience, most importantly, having the VCs with us. And it's been a lot of hard work, and just wanted to, we have 3 champions, but the 2 main champions are here. So thank you so much, Nick and Candice. Really incredible job. Thank you. Thank you. I think it was a really fantastic day, especially for our startups. I checked with them in the bullpens, and some of them, like the Cisco, was interested in 4 or 5 companies that he's gonna follow up for a second meeting. And really, I think that is our objective here. If you can get 3, 4 follow-up meetings from the VCs that are interested in your company, I think we have achieved what we set forth to do. But really, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce Kevin Efrusy. I have known him for, I would think, about 4 or 5 years. And I don't know if he, usually you kind of say that VCs are sort of lucky when they hit it out of the park. But I have been in deal reviews with Kevin, and I have not seen anybody to be so attentive to the entrepreneur's pitch. Frankly speaking, pay a lot of respect, and as well as if, let's say, if he's not interested, he really guides them the right way. You know, because a lot of these startups don't start with the best idea first. And having a sort of like a true partner, like Kevin from Excel, it makes the journey a lot more exciting and a lot more successful. You know, first project was Facebook, that has been incredible, that Kevin was involved with. And recently, when I was in Chicago, Groupon is another very major company. I mean, there is numerous companies that he has sort of the Midas touch. And I really would love to hear what he sees in the market, where he sees the big opportunities to be. But he's, frankly speaking, one of my favorite friends and VCs, and we are really looking. We have a small company, Nor1, as a co-investment, but we really are looking to do some other co-investments together. So please welcome Kevin Efrusy. Great VC and a great guy.
Thanks, that's really nice. Well, hello, and first of all, thank you, Saeed, for those kind words. And first of all, thank you guys for staying through a long day. I have a feeling it was probably fewer of my colleagues in the business and more of the entrepreneurs, and that's good. So I'll try to give the very brief commercial on Axcel, and then talk about really whatever it is that you guys want to talk about, and try to make this as interactive as possible, because you've had a long day of people talking at you with PowerPoint, and we'll see if we can get you to be interactive, and if not, I'll do my best. So, Axcel has been practicing the venture business since 1982, so I guess that's a little outdated. I guess we're 28 years now. It must be an old slide, or 83, but it was really 82. And we do investments in early stage companies. Has been the majority of our franchise. In December of 2008, we raised a growth fund, which is a separate fund managed by the same set of partners, to invest in later stage businesses. Not so much Series C and Series D venture investments as much as entrepreneurs who bootstrapped their company for a while, got it profitable, and want more what you'd call traditional growth investing. And we also have offices around the world. So we have separate funds attacking Europe out of the UK, attacking India out of both Delhi and Bangalore, and then going after China in numerous cities in China in our partnership with the IDG folks. So it's called IDG Excel there, and they're just killing it over there. So I'm pretty excited to be working with all of those groups. So some of the companies that we've invested in that you might have heard of are on this list. The more of the household names are on the right side, the consumer internet companies, but frankly some of the biggest successes are found elsewhere, but maybe necessarily aren't always as recognized. So things like Veritas, which is an interesting story because we had to go through 3 separate business models, to Saeed's point, with Veritas before we found one that worked. The company basically went bankrupt 3 times. Same thing with Metro PCS. They actually went, you guys are familiar with them. We wrote the first check for them to buy Spectrum, and they went bankrupt in 1997, but we stayed with it. And the government got washed out of the Spectrum licenses, actually, but we didn't, and it wound up working out okay. More recently, a company like ClickView went public. SpringSource was bought by VMware. And then, Riverbed's a public company, and then there are the ones on the right, Facebook, Groupon, Etsy, AdMob, Kayak, Brightcove, Macromedia, Glam, that people are more recently familiar with. Is we've spent a lot of time on digital media, really since the beginning, but a lot, especially in the past 6 or 7 years. And that's, I think, what people lately have been identifying with us. But we do just as much in cloud computing and infrastructure as we do in that side of the business. One thing I want to emphasize, though, in pretty much all of these cases, we invested. If we weren't the first investor, we maybe were the second, and we're very involved in sort of forming and helping build the company on the board with the management team. It's not, piling in at a late round, buying 1% and putting a logo on our slide. That isn't really what we've done. So my background, I've been at Excel for just about 8 years now, and I was an entrepreneur before that. Like many of you in the room, I started a couple of companies, and at the time I joined Excel in kind of early '03, late '02. It wasn't clear that either of them were very successful, so I really owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to some of the partners at Excel for taking a bet on me, at that time, when it was unclear what I had accomplished, and even for some time at Excel. And, just like anything, they were as patient with me as they've been with some of their companies, and I will never forget that. But as it turns out, some of those companies have done all right. Choreo went public and was bought by IBM, and then Iron Planet filed the rest one not too long ago, and hopefully at some point here will be public 11 years later after we started it. So, folks, if you're patient and you have a good idea and you're persistent and you don't burn a lot of cash, you can actually get there. And you can see sort of the rest. I'm a big Stanford fan, so go Cardinal against Oregon this weekend, for those of you who care. And I'm also a parent, and the only reason that's kind of relevant is being a parent of 3 young boys has actually, I think, made me a better board member in some ways, as parenting and some aspects of this business are very similar. And a lot of that is less is more, boundaries, but don't get too involved. And our most well-adjusted son is our youngest boy, who's 2, because we're just too busy to stand over him too much. So he learned to do everything on his own, and he's happy and well-adjusted, whereas the oldest kid is the one who's, insecure and, we argue with all the time. So on that note, well, wait, before I get to this, that's cheating. What I want to do is to stop here and say, what questions do you guys really have for me? And anything's fair game. I might not answer them, but in terms of whether it's about Excel, whether it's about some of the companies we invested in, or about, what do we look for in companies, what are the market areas, and if someone can toss me a pen, I'll try to write them down and then answer them. But if none of you do, you can see I've got some of my own questions I'm ready to answer in a more dynamic fashion. But you've been talked at all day. What do you really want to know? For those of you who stayed to hear me talk, either you're just staying to see who the awards are, or you want to know something from me. So, sure. Okay, so the question was, if someone flubs their 2-minute pitch, do I write them off? Okay, I'm going to write the questions down first before I answer them. What else? Come on, you got to wonder some other things. Yes, sir. Do I invest in internet companies without traction? I just did one a couple of weeks ago, and we'll talk about it. Anyone from that corner? Because I got to get that corner involved here. Yeah, I see a hand there somewhere. Yeah. Super angels. Yep. Okay. I'll do 2 more. Yes. Valuations. Okay. And wait. Yes. What do I think of the Social Network movie? I knew someone was going to ask that. I am not in it, thankfully. I think my partner, Jim Barber, might be. I'm not sure. All right. We have those questions, so I'll try to rip these off pretty quickly, and then I'll go on to some of the ones that I think other people tend to ask, and then maybe we'll have time for some more, though I doubt it. Time's running out quickly. So what do I do about a 2-minute pitch? And maybe what I'll really say more broadly is, what am I really looking for in that pitch, right? And there's 2 things we're looking for. There's the entrepreneur and there's the idea. And I'll tell you a story. When I first got into the venture business, I thought it was all about the idea, frankly, and that the entrepreneurs were fungible. That if the idea was good enough, you can assemble a great team around it and make it work. Because that was sort of how I had started my companies, is the idea sort of existed and I grabbed it and tried to make something out of it. And I couldn't have been more wrong. I was really wrong. And part of this was, Facebook was kind of interesting because I think when we brought it in, I don't think any of us knew how good Mark Zuckerberg was because he really didn't speak much. And it was hard for us to really know what was driving him, what was motivating him, and all these thoughts in his head. And so, it was very easy to sort of look back and say, well, boy, he got lucky. He sort of, took an idea that already existed with a Friendster and then adjusted it to, to college students, and it just sort of took off on him. And that is not actually what happened. And when you get to know him and you understand his thought processes and how he's reinvented the industry, he's outstanding. And that same idea and that same starting point in someone else's hands would not have been what it is. And in fact, that idea was in other people's hands and wasn't Facebook, right? So the entrepreneur makes a huge difference, and I didn't appreciate that back then. And I'll talk about what I look for in the entrepreneur. And then the second part of that usually is, what do you look for in the idea? But to answer the quick question, if someone flubs it in the 2-minute pitch, my answer is they get a lot more than 2 minutes. But if they really blow it in the hour that they have, yeah, sometimes it can be hard to recover. What am I looking for in that entrepreneurial team? And I'd say the first thing is authenticity. The most important thing to be is yourself. And are you yourself a fit for that business idea or not? And if you're not, no amount of trying to change who you are will make it work because it's very, very visible. And I can't tell you how many times people come in and pitch us and they try to tell us what we want to hear. What are you guys investing in? What are you looking for? And then they try to engineer their idea to something that's fundable. And I can tell you that doesn't work because the inauthenticity of that really rings a lot. The businesses that are successful are people who build things for themselves, for own problems that they have, and then it sort of takes off on them. So I can't say how important that is. The other things that are important are being detail-oriented. It's great to be a vision person and to come in with a big vision, but if you can't execute on that in terms of the details of the product, and the details of the product really, really matter. So Facebook and MySpace and Friendster and the 7 other ones that tried would have all looked the same on paper. But some of the subtle details that, say, Mark got right were incredibly important. If you look at Groupon, I mean, there's certainly a number of competitors, but there's a reason why Groupon is 6 times bigger than the others, is there's some key details of how they run that business and how Andrew Mason thinks about it that are really important. So you have to be clearly detailed and a product-oriented person. And then you have to be scrappy. And impress us with what you were able to get done on no capital. Impress us on who you were able to convince to leave their jobs before you raised venture money. So I can't tell you how many times folks kind of come in and say, well, we weren't really able to do much because we haven't, well, after we raise venture, we're going to do these things. And so there's this big pause in trying to raise money. True entrepreneurs find ways to get things done without money. You could get more done with it, but impress us with how resourceful you are, because that's what we're going to be looking for. Just once you have our money, there's still going to be walls you're going to need to walk through. People telling you no, technology hurdles to overcome, and if you haven't proven that you can just walk through walls to get these things done, maybe you shouldn't be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. Definitely not everyone should be. In fact, most entrepreneurs make terrible employees of big companies and vice versa. And then sort of the last thing I would say is you have to be stubborn. And so if there's one thing that gets me a little bit nervous, is while I know all entrepreneurs go through idea shifts and changes, to be able to, so you need some sort of nimbleness of thought. But that being said, you don't want to always be changing your idea to whatever the last person you spoke with told you, especially your board or your venture capitalist. If you let your board push you around, the company will be a disaster. If you have a very, very strong idea of what your service needs to be, you need to stick with that and only change that if you really change your mind. But if you let your board members push you around, you're going to have a lot of problems. One is your board members probably don't agree, and you'll have 3 different ideas pushing you in 3 different directions, and you'll become very frustrated and the company will be paralyzed. But the second thing is, what the board will tell you probably is conventional wisdom and things that we've seen work before. But the really, really great ideas are things no one's seen before, things that defy the conventional wisdom. And so that's what I look for. So when I'm telling people ideas, hey, you should try this, you should try that, and they're fervently taking notes, I get nervous. I like the guys who say, that's kind of a dumb idea, and here's why. The answer Andrew Mason did to me when I gave him a bunch of ideas in our meeting, you need to do these things. He's like, those aren't very good ideas, and here's why those are dumb ideas. But I'll take that one. That one is something I want to do. But those 6, not so sure. And so I look for that, someone who has that own vision really in their mind. And and obviously, Mark Zuckerberg was amazing on that dimension, and he was able to be stubborn even in the face of a lot of very public criticism on some of his best ideas. And then the one other thing I want to talk about in the few minutes I got left is what are the ideas that we look for? And rather than talking about specific markets, and it's all about things built on the social web or cloud computing, and I don't know that we have some unique intellectual property there, but frankly not a lot that I'm going to share. But what I will talk to you about is the generic things you should look for in your idea that are patterns for success. And one of those patterns for success is and I call this, it's a bit geeky, surface area to volume ratio. In other words, take an idea that has that has very low surface area and very high volume. In other words, thin and deep. Easy to penetrate, easy for somebody to kind of begin working with, but then has a lot of room to innovate behind it. Think of a needle that goes through the skin. And a lot of people take ideas that are very broad, and you need to really change the way you think about something. A business needs to change their workflow. A consumer needs to change the way they behave to sort of swallow it. And those ideas tend not to work. Whereas I like thin things that are very narrow features that people can adopt quickly, like a Dropbox, for instance. Look at the brilliance of that. Look at how simple it is, how easy it inserts. But once you're in there, There are so many different things that they can build and expand to. That's a great idea. And so that's something that I really like. Things to also watch out for are dependencies to execute. Well, before I can get my product in the market, I need Best Buy to do this and Walmart to do that and Facebook to do this. And then once I get all those partnerships, it's going to be a really cool product. I tend to like things that can solve what I consider a day zero problem. You can launch and have value even when no other users are using your product and even when no business development partnerships are there. Now, other users and business development partnerships can make your product better, but you don't want to have to depend on those things for success. And then the last thing is have a product that's really good for lazy people. Consumers are lazy. Address one of the deadly sins. We like looking at scantily clad people of the opposite sex. We're lazy and we like immediate gratification. We're greedy and we like things that pay us money. I mean, attack one of those things. A lot of times engineers come to me with pains they have because they're very retentive people. I was an engineer, so I could say that. And they say, well, the problem is my information is scattered and I want it all in one place or in one console. And I see those business models all the time. The truth is, yeah, we all would like that. But it's sort of like organizing your closet. I'd like my closet to be organized, but I'm never going to spend the time to do it. Most people have disorganized closets. 5% of the population probably has organized closets. So that means it's a small market and you don't want to address them. You want to address the 95% of the people who want the easy button. And you make it so easy for them to use their product that it gets adopted. So, with my couple minutes left, I'm going to put a couple of these other questions up there, and by sort of a voice vote, I'll propose one of them, and if you guys really don't want me to talk about it, we'll pick a question from the crowd here. So, what are the last two? What does Excel actually do on a board? You hear all this, how are venture firms different, and for those of you raising money, you'll get pitched on. We'll pitch you just like you pitch us, right? Here's how we're better. We have a network of business development relationships in our portfolio and all these sort of things. But here's why we're better. And then what do we actually do in our companies? How many of you actually want to hear about that, or you want to hear about some other questions that you guys have? How many people want to hear what I was going to talk about? How many people want me to take another question from the crowd? Oh, all right. Well, crowd loses. So what you really are looking for in a venture firm is your idea, for most of you guys, these are early stage ideas, is incredibly risky. And in most entrepreneurs, your job is to build a house of cement out of a house of cards. We know you don't have very much. That's why we're early stage investors. That's okay. So what you really want are people who are fit with you, for people who share your passion for your idea, for people who want it as badly as you do and have the vision that's similar to yours. Because if they're seeing it very differently now at the beginning, it's only going to get worse once they're on your board. If they don't have a lot of enthusiasm for it now, or the rest of the partnership doesn't have a lot of enthusiasm for it, if there's sort of one person who's championing it and a bunch of people who are stone cold in the room and don't like it, once things kind of go sideways, and things will go sideways, no matter who you are, you will have a valley of death in your business, even if you go off to be successful. Things will get dicey. Those investors might panic if they never believed in the first place. So the most important thing you're really looking for is someone who believes and has passion for your idea and has support for it in their partnership. So one of the things that's really important about Excel, and we think we're a little bit different, is that we don't have one person per practice area. Well, there's the consumer internet person, or there's our infrastructure software person, there's our mobile person. For any particular area that we invest, there's usually 3, if not 4 of us who know a lot about the area and dive in. So when that entrepreneur comes in, they feel like there's a wind at their back of people who get and love and are passionate about what they want to do, and then all dive in to help. And that's something that I think you guys really, at the end of the day, it's about fit, and that's what you really should look for. And if you come to Excel and you don't get that from Excel, then it's probably mutually not a fit, right? So I think that's more important than any logos on a slide or anything else that people can tell you. And in terms of what we actually do on a board, at least how I try to behave, is, and I've learned this over the years, I've gotten a little better at it, and I learned it from my parenting, is that I try to pick 1 or 2 or usually 3 really important issues that I think are going to help make the company get to the next level, and that's it. And I focus really hard on helping the company with those 2 or 3 most important issues. And everything else, you can do the standard board governance, but try not to be in your shorts about it. Or let one of the other board members do that. And I'll give you an example. So with Groupon, what I've been really focused on is trying to turn that company, which is a company that's sort of a deal of the day company with a huge sales force, into a company that has a much more interesting advantage through a technology platform that you've seen the beginnings of, and we're building a lot in the background. And to take a Chicago company and help them with the West Coast, build a West Coast technology presence to be absolutely best in class in that field. And I've spent 90% of my time helping them recruit engineers. We've acquired now 2 companies in technology to do that, both of which we have introduced to them as Excel to help make that vision a reality. That was sort of job 1. Job 2 was to help him build out the management team. And there were a couple of hires I really wanted him to make, and in particular, I was a head of products and there was a COO, and both of those, we sort of introduced to him and convinced him to move to Chicago for the opportunity. And so that's an example with Groupon. And Facebook, my partner Jim Breyer, who's on the board there and has been from the beginning, has done sort of countless things. And my role there has been much more narrow, but I picked 1 or 2 things back in the early days to focus on, and I think one of them has become Facebook credits, mostly due to their great work. And the other one was focusing on a little bit on gaming and virtual goods. But we get into that. So I'm out of time, and there's certainly a lot more we could talk about. But I'm assuming we're trying to stay on schedule here, and and move on. And I'm sorry I couldn't answer all the different questions that you guys had. So thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Kevin. And now it's time to announce the 3 winners as voted by our investor panel. But first, we have a quick announcement. We're going to be doing a raffle during the reception, networking reception. This is Anna Louise. We're raffling. Go ahead, Anna.
Yep. I'm Anne-Louise Cardes. I work for Sprint as a business development manager. I look for innovation and startups in the Valley. And I want to invite all of you in the mobile space to come to our developer conference that's in Santa Clara from October 26 to 28. And I'll be raffling free passes for that. And if there is a mobile company amongst the winner, they definitely get to go to our conference for free. So if you have any questions, come and see me during the reception. Thank you, and thanks Plug and Play for the opportunity.
Thank you, Anna. I would now like to call up Larry Quesada from Amazon, one of our partners. All of the winners today are going to receive Amazon credits, but I'll let Larry talk a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Larry Quesada. I am an account executive with Amazon Web Services. And we do have here some credits that we'll be offering to the 3 winners. We are very happy to support promising startups as they move forward to becoming successful businesses. And I hope very much that these credits help them succeed using our reliable and scalable platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Saeed, if you could join me on the stage for the presentation of the award to the 3 winners. And if the winners could also come join me. So we have our 3 finalists, or our 3 winners as selected by the VCs are InflectSoul, iSocket, and R7 Mobile. Give them a round of applause. Praveen, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Please. Let's hold this.
Congratulations. Thank you, man. Sorry. We'll practice this first tomorrow. And Hisham?
Our Malaysian company, huh? I'm going to Kuala Lumpur on Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Pleasure. Yeah. Let's take a group picture now. Candice, join us. We need some pretty lady first. All this ugly man, one trip. Thank you. And congratulations.
Give our winners one last round of applause. So you saw 40 companies today. I know you might have trouble remembering exactly which companies these were, so we're going to give them an additional 10 minutes to pitch. So that's going to be 10 minutes of pitching plus Q&A, so get your questions ready. We're going to go alphabetically, so we'll start off with Praveen from Inflexol. Congratulations, Praveen.
Thank you. So, first of all, let me thank everyone who voted. We really appreciate it. It's been a long road. You know, we've been in stealth mode for 7 years, and today's the first day we can actually talk publicly about what we've been doing. And it's actually been a very big day, besides being here at Plug and Play and having all of your support. Our co-founders are actually in Anaheim right now, presenting the technical aspects of our solution at a conference there. And we just won a large contract with the Oak Ridge National Lab based on our presentation today. So it's been a good day for our small company. Thank you very much. So just to review, you know, it's been a few hours now, so I'll go over the high level first again in case you missed it. But we're in Inflexol. We are an advanced green manufacturer. Our mission is to revamp the way electronics and photoelectronics are made. Like, most people don't realize this, but you know, everyone assumes like the oil industry is the dirtiest industry, but electronics are actually not clean at all. I mean, semiconductors, there's a witch's brew of toxic materials that goes into making a chip, and anything that has to do with chip technology like LEDs, same thing. You know, there's everyone knows about conflict diamonds or blood diamonds, right? But there's also conflict minerals. A lot of the minerals that power our advanced society are actually mined in very underdeveloped countries, and there's wars going on for these minerals. So what we do at Inflexol is we're trying to save the world in our own way by making manufacturing greener. So we invented a new science called the science of laser alchemy. And we have a new tool called the Alchemist 1.0 laser machine tool. If it was sitting beside me, it'd basically be a very large machine, so it's not something I'm going to bring with me, but I'll show you pictures and videos of it. So our first real-world application, which some of you saw the videos when you came to visit our booth, is the LightGen brand light-emitting glass. So it's the first time ever you can take a piece of glass, in fact our demos are just glass we buy from Home Depot, and turn it into an electronic device without any sort of metal. So basically it's a light bulb with no discrete components, and we have 11 patents on this and 12 pending. And basically, you know, we're a science company. In fact, one of our founders actually worked with the original inventors of the microchip, including Shockey. They're actually much older than me, of course. They worked with them in the 60s. But you know, we're a pretty cool young company. You know, you have to get to know us, and we're very friendly. So, and it was actually very educational walking around out there. You know, there's a lot of good investor questions we have to answer. You know, so hopefully with the community out here, we'll be on our way. So let me get started with the presentation. So this is our glass. It's an ordinary piece of glass, and we turn it into light emitting. And each of those dots is actually twice as bright as a conventional LED light bulb. And we do this at 1/10 of the cost. So I was talking to the Samsung guys out there. One application would be to take the entire front glass plate of a phone, I guess a Samsung phone for them, not an iPhone, and turn it into a powerful flashlight, which uses only half the electricity of an LED, but costs 1/10 of the price. So the way we do this is we actually use laser doping, and we actually create something called tunable PN junctions inside the glass itself. And that's Nat Quick. He's our chief scientist and the founder as well, and he's the one that worked with Shockey. And all of our patents are under his name. He's actually our genius, so to speak, and that's our Alchemist 1.0 laser machine tool. So the really cool thing about what we do is, we're creating these electronic devices without any toxic materials, no metal, no water, and we use very low electricity even though we're using lasers. So it's a really amazing process, and I'll show you all the market validation in a few slides. So we have a robust product roadmap. The glass that I was demoing outside is actually for our 1.0 model. That's what we make with our Laser Alchemist 1.0 machine. The 2.0 machine is when we're going to actually create solar-powered glass. Basically, instead of light-emitting glass, it's basically glass that absorbs light as a solar panel would. That's what we call the direct energy conversion material. And then some other cool concepts like the magic lamp, basically unplugged indoor lighting, some cool product ideas. And then long-term, the Alchemist 3.0, it's more like back to the future. Most people don't realize this, but the current way microchips are designed with PN junctions isn't really the original intent. Originally MIT intended for what we trademarked the name, the material is the computer, actually putting direct writing circuits onto material, not having like all this like photolithography or anything. So we went back 50 years, took an idea MIT originally thought of, and we actually developed it and patented it and trying to create products on a new way to make electronic devices. So we have 11 issued patents, 12 applied for. We own the entire IP stack. We don't reference anyone else's patents. We've already generated $1 million in revenue from Intel, Department of Energy. We have memorandums of understanding and interest from General Electric, grants from NASA, NSF, and just now we have a contract with Oak Ridge National Lab. So our first industry we're targeting is the lighting industry. Right now it's a $75 billion industry, and our total available market is 22.5. That's what the light bulb is. The other parts of the lighting industry is kind of like fixtures. So within the 22.5, we're targeting the LED industry, which should grow to 50 billion just by itself by 2015, according to Philips. So as far as like why we're better, I mean, this is, if we added another column here to show LEDs, we'd be even more off the screen, even more disruptive. We're basically cost 1/10 the cost of our current competitors, and we last 9 times as long, and we're much brighter. So basically, this is our, us on the left and the LEDs on the right. We're basically a clean, simple, 2-step process for producing a new type of light bulb, and LEDs are basically a 50-step process. And this is our LED competitor, the Frankenbulb, as we like to call it, the latest GE light bulb. It's overpriced at $50, low light. There's no energy savings over compact fluorescent lights, and I fail to see who other than early adopters are going to buy a $50 light bulb, basically. But that's what people are investing billions of dollars right now in fabs to build this thing. So, basically we're a material, not a device. So a lot of things, we don't have filaments. Basically that glass you see, that's it, basically. There's nothing inside that glass. We're cheaper, better, disruptive. And what we're trying to do right now is build our first pilot plant. So we want to build a light bulb factory, so to speak. And the pilot plant, we are predicting $250 million in revenue in year 5 for one plant. And we're going to build multiple plants concurrently as we prove the technology. So right now we need $1 million to further our R&D and actually create the actual light bulb form. If you saw the demos outside, all of our glass is flat right now, so we have to curve it. So it's basically some mechanical engineering involved. All the science and all the machinery is already proven, and we've already have patents and a lot of market validation on that. We need $10 million to build our plant, and then we'd also like to do additional grants and consulting contracts while we're in the Valley. So any questions? Yeah. Yeah, so that's a common question. Everyone outside was asking, obviously, the same thing. So we've been out of stealth mode. Oh, so it was asking about links to technical papers? Yeah. Yeah, so all of our patents are obviously public information, so you can do a patent search. You just search for Dr. Nathaniel Quick, but you can just go to the website. We'll update the website. We're only out of stealth mode for 2 hours now, so you have to give us some time to get that information out. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Yes, hi. Can you comment on scalability for your scale-out manufacturing? What are the challenges that remain?
Sure. So that's a very good question. At the booth, we actually have our architectural diagrams of our proposed plant. You know, we basically we're a very lean startup. You know, we don't have any investors right now. We've self-funded this, and we've had contracts and grants. So, along the same lean philosophy, we decided our first manufacturing facility is actually going to be, you know, inside of an existing facility. So we're going to sublet space, and our Laser Alchemy 1.0 machine is basically, you know, a machine tool, so to speak. So it's basically be one worker operating the entire machine, and one worker can make, you know, XX number of products per hour, and that XX number will be, you know, increase as we work out the bugs in our production process. So it's basically a machine shop at that point. And then, you know, as we become more sophisticated after our first pilot plant, we'll come up with new production techniques, maybe an assembly line.
If we have no more questions, we have time for one more.
Okay, so he has a very interesting question. He's asking when you can buy this, basically. So we are less than a year away from commercially releasing our first product, which is going to be, you know, a light bulb. So, you know, the hard part's already done. We've been working on this for 7 years now. You know, basically creating a new field of science and issuing all these patents and doing this when we're underfunded, basically. You know, if maybe, you know, thank God for unanswered prayers. Maybe if we had a lot of money, would have gone down a different path. We wouldn't have come to where we are now. But basically, we feel we're a year away, and then that's also dependent on actually, like, you know, building our first plant as well. But we had some interesting conversations, and if anyone would like to help, you know, we could possibly, instead of build our own plant, we could contract manufacture this with someone else. But that's something we can talk about. You know, we've only really been considering this for a few hours now. But thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Praveen. Congratulations. Next up, I would like to call John Ramey from iSocket. If we can give him a round of applause.
Hi, John Ramey, founder CEO of iSocket. Thank you very much. I'm very kind of humbled that you would vote for us, but also incredibly unprepared. So in these situations, what I would absolutely have preferred to do is just to jump into the product and show you. That's not going to be possible, so I'm going to keep it kind of short. I know you're hot and hungry. Basically, with the 30 minutes of questions that we got outside, I'm just going to try to round out some information for you. In my pitch earlier, I mentioned right off the bat that we make any type of ad inventory easier to find, purchase, and execute. Right now, we're focused on banner ads, what's called display advertising on websites. I wanted to kind of clear something up or differentiate the difference between an ad network and what we do. So if you think about a magazine, an actual print magazine that none of us read anymore, the first couple ads are always nice, full-page, kind of, you know, underwear Calvin Klein ads. The ones in the back are always kind of crappy little cigar ads, right? That's how media and selling advertising against media was supposed to work. When we got online, they kind of started to only go towards the back of the ads. So things like AdSense, other ad networks, they're all what's called remnant inventory. It's designed to be large-scale arbitrage, back-of-the-magazine type stuff. But it was so easy and it grew so quickly that it became the primary monetization strategy for a lot of websites. You throw some JavaScript on your website, Google takes care of it, they send you a check, and you're happy. And that worked fine. Obviously, you guys probably got rich on a lot of ad networks. It was good. But things are changing, and now websites are maturing, the tools are maturing, the market is maturing. And people like TechCrunch say, you know what, we don't want to rely on this. We want to stand on our own two legs as a media organization, not a funnel for AdSense. So they want to sell what's called premium advertising, that front of the magazine stuff. The reason it's called premium is because you can sell it for a premium. An advertiser is willing to pay more if they know specifically where their advertisement is going to show up. right? Now, I'm not saying that there's no place for ad networks, there's no place for AdSense. It's great, but it doesn't fill the need for everybody. So I'll give you an example. One of our publishers is a relatively small social gaming site, okay? They run AdSense, they make 30 cents CPM, what have you. They started selling premium ads through iSocket. An advertiser came along and they're purchasing campaigns that are up to 5 to 8 times more expensive than the revenue that publisher would have generated from AdSense. Why is the advertiser willing to pay more? Because they're able to tailor a better fit. This advertiser came to this website, he placed a small order to kind of test the waters. Within 24 hours, he had a 5% click-through rate. Now, if you know anything about online ads, that's ridiculous. You're typically talking about click-through rates of 0.05%. Why did that happen? Because he was able to tailor and pick the specific website with the specific package that he wanted. So I mentioned this was a social gaming site, and the advertiser had a social game. Okay, people were very interested in it. TechCrunch, why would they sell a premium ad? They put together a package for startups. So if you're having, like if you're coming out of stealth after 7 years and you want to make a big deal out about it, you can buy a one-day takeover startup package on TechCrunch. So the benefits of this for both the publisher and the advertiser are pretty clear. But as I mentioned earlier, the problem is that because this was ignored for so long, the process and the logistics were really painful. That. Almost every website that you go to that is already selling premium sales asks you to email them or call them or fill out a fax form or something. This is no different than if you go to Amazon to buy something and they ask you to fill out an email contact form. I don't know if you've ever been shopping online and it even tells you to see the price, add to cart. Even just that pisses me off, let alone having to fill out a contact form. So this barrier, this hurdle, makes these logistics just too difficult. And the result of that is that a lot of websites feel they can't do this because maybe it's 2 bloggers on the weekend and they're busy writing content. They don't want to have to deal with advertisers and invoices and PayPal and metrics and ad serving and so on. So when people ask us, what is your competition? The competition is actually the status quo. The majority of publishers that are doing this type of direct ad sales are using email, an Excel spreadsheet, PayPal, and maybe an ad server. We come along and are providing them that tool for the first time. On the advertiser side, it's just as painful. I was speaking with somebody out here who says, I buy a lot of media, and it's a pain because we have to do this one-to-one process with every single website that we want to work with. Obviously, iSocket addresses that. I wish I could show you more of this product, but like if you go to techcrunch.com/advertise, you'll see this. Now, we don't compete with salespeople. In fact, since we started with TechCrunch, they've grown and they've added salespeople, and that's fine. That's one of the reasons we went commission-free, which I'll expand on later. But if you go to techcrunch.com/advertise, it tells you information. It says, hey, if you want to spend a lot of money, here's an email address with a human that you can talk to. If you're spending 40 grand or less, in their case, it's a little pricey, you can go to iSocket. You can see their packages, what we kind of call like the Chinese menu of inventory. You know, I'll have dim sum and fried rice, and here's my credit card. Commissions. So we were the first service to kind of say, wait a second, we're not acting like a broker. We act like a toolkit. So here's our toolkit. Pay us for our toolkit. We are basically giant tools. Yes, haha. Somebody complimented me earlier on the graceful, intentional slip-up about having fat fees. I promise you that was not intentional. Why did we go commission-free? We didn't do it to be like the Walmart of advertising. It's not to compete on price. It's to recognize that this is about direct sales. This is about me buying an ad from you or you buying an ad from TechCrunch. There are people involved in this process, not the magical machines at Google. Other products that have taken a stab at this in the past that are commission-based are inherently scared of being circumvented. So they kind of put this wall up. I don't know if it doesn't show it on this page, but towards the bottom on this page, it actually shows you the faces. Von Brown, Director of Advertising, TechCrunch, email address, face. You know who you're working with. And if you're about to spend 40 grand for a 2-day campaign, you kind of want to know that there's a human on the other end. So we got rid of commissions as a way to build a better product for this type of industry. And it's working out great. There's a lot of publishers that say, I never even got into this industry. I never even tried to do direct sales because the last thing I'm going to do is hustle and build up a backflow of advertisers just to give 40% of it to somebody else. In fact, that's what happened with TechCrunch. So when they came to us, they said, look, right now we're using Google and Federated Media, if any of you guys are familiar with that. We want to stand on our own two legs. We don't want to have to build up an entire organization of ad ops and salespeople to do it. And we don't want to use a product that's going to take 50% of our gross. Because what would happen when they were using some of the other services out there is somebody would call TechCrunch and say, hey, I want to buy an ad on TechCrunch. How do I do it? And they'd say, oh, great, you have to go talk to these guys. Okay, so they'd go talk to these guys. They'd have to talk to like a salesperson. And that salesperson would take that money and spread it around multiple different websites. And then the sliver that did go to TechCrunch, they'd take 40% of it. And clearly that's not very good for both parties, especially the publisher. So that's really what we're about here. This toolkit helps publishers stand on their own legs, sell their advertising the way that they want to. Their policies, their pricing, you can put all kinds of different packages together very simply within iSocket. You box it up, you put it on our shelf, and people can come and buy it. Where did I put the clicker? An example price point, you can serve 5 million impressions per month for $99. Based on kind of the typical revenue a site of that size might make, commission-based services might take $2,000 or $3,000 in commissions per month. So there are publishers that are switching to us away from ad networks and towards direct sales. Compared to commission-based products, they're saving thousands, and they're able to increase their revenue on average 2 to 3 times. That's powerful. You know, you talk about ad network optimizers, they take you from 5 cents to 7 cents. We take you from 5 cents to $5. And that's a really powerful thing. Now the key is, who is this right for? What are the types of publishers that we're working with? You actually have to apply to join iSocket because we focus on the mid-tail. This is not a product for the top 200. You know, they're big enough where CNN.com has their own thing. But it's also not for the long tail. It's kind of for that middle 75,000 websites. In terms of traffic, 50,000 page views all the way up to, I think the largest we have is 90 million page views per month. So it's definitely a situation where you're large enough to be attractive to an advertiser, but not large enough where you have Time Warner, you know, bankrolling your entire sales department. On the advertiser side, it depends. We have people like Series B companies where they maybe have like a 30 grand a month marketing budget. They just want an easy way to deploy that. And some of that will go to ad networks, but some of it will go through us. And there's really no tool to help them do that right now. So moving on from the product, a little bit about our team, a little bit about myself. So this is actually my third company, successful repeat entrepreneur, but this is, you know, to be honest, my first 10x business. The first one was in online marketing, the second one was in offline marketing. So iSocket actually came out of my pain from my last business. I was dealing with a lot of direct mail, direct response, print, very kind of hand-to-hand, old world, just painful stuff. And the CS geek in me was saying, how can we make this process of buying and selling these forms of inventory easier? And that's kind of where iSocket got started from, was from that pain. We very intentionally chose this first product for kind of helping websites sell banner ads as our beachhead. So that's what we're focused on right now. I mentioned like Cheeseburger Network and TechCrunch. We just went into public beta. We're opening up the doors. And that's what we're focused on for the next 6 months, is really executing that. The rest of our team is really awesome, experienced startup people, very well-designed product, and we're just hitting the ground running. At that point, I just kind of want to open it up and see if anybody has any additional questions. Do we actually sell the ads? Good question. So we have like a marketplace, but we don't act like a broker. So I am not hitting the road and saying, hey, you should really buy an ad on TechCrunch. I'm not doing that. If I did, I'd want a commission. But because we don't act like a brokerage, we act like a toolkit, thus our revenue model. So we have ways to help people discover inventory, but we don't represent it.
Thank you very much, John. And our final presentation of the day, please welcome Hisham from R7.
Thank you very much. Hello. Thank you very much, Nick. I'm going to keep it short because I am hungry. Thank you for voting us. I feel like I'm on American Idol and getting a call back. Let's go through what I didn't go through. It's boring stuff. Okay, so you've seen this diagram before. The app collects the data, send it to our server, we send it to Salesforce. And what I didn't go through just now is the phone activities are shown in a timeline, so you can see what you did on the phone. your calls coming in, calls going out, text coming in, text going out. Those are all shown in a timeline. A map. We also collect the cell ID that let us plot what you did, where were you at on the map, as you can see here. We also show a threaded view of a conversation according to contact. For example, this is my contact with Alex Vance, text and calls. And this is the Salesforce activity history page that you saw earlier. So far, any questions? I mean, I can go on, but any questions now? Do we record both sides? Yes, we do record both sides. Basically, the app in the phone will record the conversation. So even if you call a voicemail, you'll record the audio of the call. Okay, I'm going to go on a bit. You've seen this slide. We are distributing our app for free in Android, BlackBerry, Apple, OV Store. And when you sign up and use the app for free, you get a limit of 50 megabytes a month. After that, there'll be a premium version called R7 Pro, which is $4 a month. And if you want to integrate with R7 CRM, that will be $8 a month. That's our model currently, which I just said. We target 2 million users in 2 years and estimate a conversion rate of 2%, which gives us about 40,000 people paying. We also target SMBs that use Salesforce and other CRM. That's part of our development plan. I promised you earlier that if you vote for us, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with Gmail. What we plan to do is include R7 within Gmail. So imagine if you click on a contact in Gmail, on the right-hand side, you will see all your SMS and calls appearing there as well. This is part of the feature within Google Apps, so you have to install R7 app within Google Apps. That's part of our plan to do. We also plan to add other CRM, Sugar CRM, Microsoft Dynamics, or SAP, because they have APIs that we can link to. I think that's the end of the slide. Any other questions? Oh, the history of the product. R7 was launched in last year at Demo. Dean Takahashi covered us as well. We were picked as by VentureBeat as one of the top 10 products there. This year, we launched R7 CRM, the integration with Salesforce. If there's no other questions, I'm going to end it here. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hisam. And without any further ado, that concludes Fall Expo 2010. Thank you all very much for coming out. Give yourselves a round of applause. You stuck it through to the end.
Also, we're really excited about tomorrow, day 2. We'll have University Expo. I've got 16 really awesome university student-led or affiliated startups presenting. We have David Lee of SV Angels speaking. We have Dr. Machi Raju, who is actually a CEO of a company called Recall that was a spin-out out of MIT speaking. And also Damon Hoagland of PayPal will be giving us a keynote address. So look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, and please enjoy the cocktails and appetizers, and thank you again.
Thank you.